Welcome, everybody, to the Mind, Body, and Soul television show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. We are also streaming live on YouTube Live, as well as Hangouts, and at consciousevolutionmedia.com. I'm your host, Coach Steve Toth, and also the founder of Conscious Evolution Media, going on more than 12 years, more than 15,000 shows, and we're not counting. I'm still counting the years, though. At some point, I will stop doing that as well. So, which is something we're going to be talking about today. So the theme this evening is how to stop the tug of war with time. Perfect. We have a wonderful guest with us this evening. Her name is Penny Zenker. Is joining us in the studio, and she is the productivity expert of the East Coast and the Midwest and the Western Hemisphere. Wow. And I can't, of course, leave out internationally. Welcome to the show, Penny.
Hi, Steve. It's great to be here.
What an introduction, huh?
I'll tell you, I know. Like, I'm feeling really big. My head, I'm not going to be able to fit it through the door, right? I had to bite my tongue when you said you're still counting the years after you said you don't believe in time. So I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I keep counting, that we've been doing this for 12 years, and it's like, why? It just occurred to me, why am I keep counting? Who cares how long I did that? Nobody cares.
I care. You care. You care.
Well, it's like, what difference does it make? What makes a difference is, are we making a difference in people's lives? We're certainly making a difference in my life because the network has transformed my life. So even if it just made a difference for me, that's good enough for me.
Well, you wouldn't be on the air this long, and that's why it matters if it wasn't making an impact for other people.
Yes, right. All right, so Penny, let's begin with if I took away that wonderful title of yours, productivity expert, and all the other titles anybody has ever called you in your life, if I just remove them all, what's left? Who is really Penny Zenker?
Well, none of those titles mean anything anyway. So, I'm not a big fan. I mean, yeah, they're labels. It's another way to know each other. But, I'm me. How do you describe? I mean, I'm this, wonderful soul, as you are. And I just have a passion for helping people see things in a different perspective and to, open up their eyes to the best way that they can show up for the time that they do have. So whether they're counting or not, and I just love to help people, make things better. I love to look at things and solve puzzles, and that's just, how my brain works, right? I look at things from a more of a strategic perspective. I'm always taking a step back and looking at things. And so, I don't know, somebody told me once, they're like, we wanted you to be part of this group. They said, because you think differently. And I said, wow, that's interesting. I never really thought of it that way. And we all think differently, right? We all have our own lens in the way that we view the world. But that's kind of how.
We all have these glasses on, even if it's not on.
That's right.
You can't see it. We have a glass on.
That's right, we do. And so I don't know if that's what you're looking for philosophically, but that's sort of, what drives me, let's say.
Yeah, I'm not looking for anything. I just let unfold whatever unfolds. And that's the truth in the moment. So let's get you related to our viewers. Tell us just a little bit about just a little story, a short-term story of Penny Zenker.
A short-term story.
Yeah, well, don't start at birth. Tell us the major points in your life that got you to today.
Well, I've had I've had a really exciting life. After I graduated from university, I actually live close by Philadelphia area right now. And I graduated from Drexel University. And, I was fortunate enough to go on this amazing program all throughout New York and with JP Morgan to all their different offices. But the coolest part was they sent me to Switzerland on a 1-year assignment. Nice. I didn't want to come back because it's so beautiful. I mean, who would want to come back, right?
Yes. So it took I'm from Europe, so I know.
So yeah, right? And completely different culture. And I just loved learning about the different cultures in Europe. And Switzerland's really a very interesting culture because they speak Italian, French, German and sort of
English.
this, well, and English, and then there's a fourth language which is called Romansh, which is their official languages. So it's a hodgepodge of culture in itself. And I spent 16 years there, so most of my adult life, and about and I even ventured. I had 2 children while I was over there, which was an exciting adventure. I just
How
told
did you
this.
have time?
Well, you just do it.
Okay.
And
Talking about time, remember?
yeah, oh yeah, time.
Came
Oh,
out
this is
again.
all in relation to time. Well, this is the passing of time, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, and I started my own business while I was over there, and that was all based around technology, because technology is one of those tools that can help us to save time, right? To make time, and
Well, at
also
least that's
sometimes
what we are
waste our
told,
time.
and that's what we've been marketed. That
Well,
once we implement all these technologies, we won't need paper. We will have more time. And as far as I can tell, none of it has become true.
well, that's why I said it can, and it can waste our time. But it really depends on how we use it. And I have seen it in many, many different instances, definitely increase efficiency and effectiveness. But it's also who drives it, right? It's who's
Yeah.
driving the bus.
Plus, we're never satisfied. If we have become more productive, we don't stop just because we have become more productive. The next question
Absolutely.
is, how do we become even more productive?
Right. Well, that is the challenge today, right? It's like this addiction for getting more done, right? It's like, you talk to someone, they're like, "Oh, I'm so busy," and then they're like, "No, I'm busy," right? It's everybody's competing for they've got more to do.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So I really love the theme of this evening, which is how to stop the tug of war with time. And the reason I love it is because, and I think you have the same belief about this than what I have, is that I recognized like about 15 years ago, for me, that time really doesn't exist. It's something that we learned. It's a societal kind of a thing. And I have stopped wearing, I locked away my watches. I don't use a watch. Because the only reason I have a reason to even know what time it is so that I can do these shows and I can meet people. Other than that,
Right.
I have no use for time.
Well, it's a common language. That's what I was saying when we were chatting a little bit earlier. Is it gives us a common language so that we can meet, so that we can do those things, and so that we can kind of see elapsed time. Although you can do that in terms of looking at how many times the sun has gone down and up and all of that. But it's an time is an interesting concept because people are so time bound, which is one of the biggest things that's really holding us back from living happier, healthier lives, is because we're time bound.
And it creates incredible amount of stress.
It really does.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like it's going away. I'm going like, where does it go? It's not
right.
going anywhere. It's not about the time.
And it doesn't fly either, right?
It's about how many times have you heard this? I'm sure you heard this, thousands of times, that we all have 24 hours, right? Well, right. That is what we are taught. We all have 24 hours, and it's interesting that there is the top 1% and the top 2% of people that are extremely productive, and they also only have 24 hours. So how come that they get a lot more done than the rest of us?
Right. Right. Well, I have an answer for that. I tell people why that is.
So that's why I said it that way. What's the answer?
Well, the answer is it's how they show up for the time that they have, because we all have the same time. We all also don't compare ourselves to other people, but compare yourselves we each have days where we're in the flow and things are just great. And you're like, wow, I accomplished so much today. And then, a couple days later, you're like, oh, where did the day go? I did nothing, right? So the difference, even if we just look at the difference in ourselves.
You don't? I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't.
Well, then you're not human, okay?
Well, none of us are. We made that up too.
Oh, okay. Well, that's another show altogether, right?
Yes. Okay.
But, it's really how we show up for the time that we have. And if we're aware of what what drives our energy, right? I call it energy management. If we're aware of the components of how we take charge of it and can bring our best energy, well, that's a game changer, right? And that's what I really look to help people understand, is how they can make that a game changer. So, and we are still human, so we're still going to have some of those days or moments, but we're going to be able to turn it around a lot quicker when we
I have
understand
moments, not days, is what I meant.
moments. Exactly.
Yeah, I'm yes, I'm still human, and I still have moments. But then I learned how to manage it and how to shift it.
Right.
But what
Exactly.
I'm hearing in your description is that it's really about people's mindset, which is
Absolutely.
really just a choice. And so maybe this would be a good opportunity to talk about what are the things that keeps people out of this zone. And I'd like to kind of call it, the top 2% of any industry create incredible and outstanding results. So what keeps the rest of the 98% out of the zone?
Well, you already said it. It's mindset. I mean, I'm a firm believer that our productivity is hampered by our mindset. And
Well,
I also want to take a step back for a second, and maybe I'll ask you a question here, because the thing is what is productivity? How do you define it, right? And so I've had a radio show for 2 years, and not a single person has given me the same definition. So I think that's a really interesting thing too. I kind of see productivity a little bit like happiness. It's a self-decided. I know plenty of people who get a lot done, and at the end of the day, they beat themselves up that they didn't get enough done, right?
yeah.
So
That's crazy.
how would you define productivity, Steve?
Well, how I define it is that I am in the flow. I am in the flow of who I am and who I am being and what am I committed to, and my passion. I am very focused. I know who I am, and I know what I want, and I know how I'm going to get what I want. That's it.
Okay.
It's very simple.
Good. So
and
your
nothing
question
stands in the way.
Nothing.
And when people come at me for stuff that has nothing to do with who I am, I just go, whatever. Sorry, I am not available for that, or I'm not interested in that. Thank you for asking, but that's not me.
And that's so important to be able to use that one important word, no.
Because otherwise, and this is what I feel that, and believe me, I love technology. I was in technology for most of my life, and I got out of technology when the 2000 thing happened.
You got out of technology. You're in technology right now.
I know.
You're being seen all over the world on technology.
I got out of technology in terms of what makes what profession I used until 2000 that helped me make a living. I don't use technology to make a living. I use it as a tool, for example, to do this show and other shows. But that's what I meant by getting out. And so what's interesting to me is what happened. And I was into development with Cisco and other companies of the wireless industry about what's going to happen to the internet and what's going to happen to telecommunications and what's going to happen to smartphones and how smartphones are going to change our lives. And oh my God, every one of those things that we talked about, and I was involved in these meetings all over the world, has become reality. And I have a concern. I mean, I can't even imagine my life without this damn thing.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
But I don't let it manage me. I manage it.
Right.
And I see people, I see so many people are completely addicted to the damn thing.
Yeah.
When it rings or it vibrates, they have to look at it.
Well, yeah, it's also because it's actually changed the wiring in our brains, right? It is like an addiction. It's really important to understand that, because we get rewarded. A little bit of dopamine, right, is released every time we get a text, like, oh, someone loves me, right?
Our curiosity, right?
Right, or I'm so important,
it's
right?
Like, oh my God.
Right.
Who wants to talk to me, or who sent me a text? Who, whatever.
Right. And it feeds our significance a little bit. It releases some dopamine and so it is actually an impulse that is then created, and that we're, that's why we want to do it more and more. So it literally is an addiction in the way that any type of a drug or anything creates that type of addiction when we are constantly going to it.
So you may be or may not be surprised, but when I was a kid, and this is so crazy, when I was probably, I would say 13, 14, for a short period of time, and I would say that short period to be maybe a year of time, from out of nowhere, I started to write these poems that were about robots and how they were going to take the world over, and how concerned I was that we as human beings are doomed because we're creating things that are going to be stronger and smarter than we are.
Interesting.
And
so,
I was only 30.
What are you saying? That we're there now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's becoming very much a reality very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. So where are you going to go?
I don't know, but when they're going to start talking about implanting this into my head, I'm not going to do it.
Oh yeah, weren't they talking about that? That they were going to create a chip that you could. I mean, really, seriously.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Right. We'll see. 10 years, I'm going to call you up and see if you got it.
We'll see. I don't think I'm going to do it. So why this is a really interesting conversation to me is because I do a lot of corporate stuff these days, and corporate consulting and also corporate coaching, and I'm just watching people, and it's just becoming so interesting to me how habitual we are as human beings, and how we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over, even if it's not getting us the result we want. And people have a hard time breaking them on their own.
It's true. It's the Ostrich Syndrome. Because our brains are also designed to take the path of least resistance, right? So in a way, our brains make us lazy in a way, right? Because it just wants to continue doing the things the same way. Don't rock the boat, just do it the same way. So we really have to take charge over that, and unfortunately, we don't do it until the pain is bad enough that we're forced to do it.
I am from the place that says rock the boat.
Me too. But I think that's a coach's nature, right? Is to challenge your comfort zone. I mean, I was just at my trainer the other day, and I was saying that, the reason I come here is because I know you're going to push me way harder than I'm going to push myself. But I create that atmosphere and that environment. If I didn't set that up so that would happen, then it wouldn't happen.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't do it myself.
I think the takeaway from that is to constantly question, and don't take it because the way we're doing it, or the way we've been doing it that way for 10 years, that doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. It just means that we just got lazy and comfortable. And don't you think that creativity is the only thing we got almost left to help us with evolution of our own self? Because if I look around about, we talked about the smartphone or any technology like Apple and any of that, it's all creativity. If people weren't in their place being creative,
right,
and thinking of things that were never possible before. Matter of fact, when they shared it with other people, they probably said, "Are you crazy? That's never going to happen."
That's right.
And so it's almost like I'm looking for that now. I'm looking for that kind of feedback when people tell me, "Are you crazy? That's never going to happen." And I go, "Yeah, I need to keep doing that because that's it. That's what's next."
Well, you know what came to me when you said that? It's almost like creativity is like a spiritual expression, because it allows us to break down any walls or barriers and think outside the box and just think of what's possible. And I think that's really what we were designed to do, is to be able to do that, right, with our complex system that we have and everything. And unfortunately, we were talking earlier about all the stress. We create a lot of stress for ourselves, and when we're stressed, we don't have access to that creativity because we're spending more time in that fight or flight mode, in survival mode, than in that creative space. And companies need to do more, especially with millennials, because millennials are demanding that in the workplace. So this is, I think it's going to be interesting, because there will definitely be shifts in order to, when millennials, I think it's in 15 years, they're going to make up 2/3 of the workforce. I mean, that's pretty big.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
They might just transform every area of our lives as we know it.
Yeah. And maybe not always, in the best sense. I mean, they're more addicted to these than anyone, right?
Well, no kidding. But I'm just watching, like, for example, we have this area in Denver called Lodo. It's downtown, the lower end of downtown, and it's been taken over by these young folks, and it's very interesting because they don't care about cars. They don't even buy them.
Uh-huh.
They use bikes and they use transportation.
Right.
And they're not following the same. Like, I was just reading it somewhere recently that millennials really not known. The statistics say that they don't buy homes, and there was one more thing that they don't do, and I forget what that was. But the one thing, they don't buy homes. That's crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what America is all about, is the American dream, is to buy your home. And the other thing is they don't necessarily get married. They just live together.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. So they're pushing against a lot of traditions, but like you said, they're questioning. They are a population that is questioning things. Well, why are we doing that? Because we've always done it. Well, I don't want to do that now. I want to do it differently. And I think that they're less tied to material things and less tied to formal structures. And that comes back to your idea around creativity, and that gives them more creativity, more expressiveness. I mean, their group is more involved in non-for-profit and supporting different types of causes like that than any other generation. So I do think that we're really heading into a different era.
For sure. And they're not buying into the traditional way how society told them how things should be. They just go,
so their definition of productivity is very different, right?
Yeah.
Their definition is very different, and they're going to demand. It's great.
So there is this other statistics that just came to me that directly relates to the subject matter that we're talking about, which is American productivity is like 40% in corporate America. And that means that hundreds, if not billions of dollars are being lost each year.
Yep,
because
300 billion.
People are not being productive. So
one of the statistics I saw is $300 billion.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's huge.
So what's up with that, and how do you think that could be transformed? Because I can't believe it's that low.
Well, it is that low, and part of it is because companies haven't changed the way that they manage, and so therefore people are not as engaged, and we see that lack of engagement in areas like a lot of conflict and office politics, right? That is a key area. I think they said that that managers lose up to 2 hours a day dealing with conflict alone.
They're doing the show called The View at work.
So that's one of the biggest areas that I see in corporate America that is really undermining the productivity is all the gossip and the competition that's going on, which once was thought to be fostering better results, but maybe short term, but in the long term, it's actually making things worse. They want to be creating a more collaborative environment versus a competitive environment. And so, those are some of the key things. Obviously, there's the things that we know of, which is like email and internet access, people doing their private internet surfing and things like that. is also a big issue. And
And don't forget going to the bathrooms and doing selfies.
and doing selfies. I want to know whose idea was it? Let's take down all these walls, right? Let's take down all these walls and have these big open spaces where nobody can concentrate because everybody's talking to each other and coming up and hanging over your cubicle and talking to you. I mean, whose great idea was that? Because that was a killer of our productivity in the corporate America as well.
Yeah. It's like, why not just remove all those walls?
Right.
What's their purpose? People are overhearing each other anyway. So
right.
those cubicles, I don't think they serve any purpose whatsoever.
Right. So so that those are some big challenges, is that they really need to take a step back and look at a complete management rehaul in the way that they think about how they're working with their teams, how they're interacting, and see how do we go from competitive to collaborative, and in what ways, and involve the people. That's one of the things is, we're no longer, as we're talking about millennials, they're not going to accept any type of dictatorial type of management. They're out of there as soon as they see that type of management behavior.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm also seeing that management does buy off on putting in, software, putting in, management systems that will give them statistics about productivity and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But they still not sold on the fact that if the employee's mindset is not changed, that's only going to have very limited results. Because what you're going to be measuring is the 40% non-productivity. Just by measuring it isn't going to improve it. Do you think it will?
No, I mean, they're measuring the wrong things, right? It's like me weighing myself after the fact. It's it's not a driver that they're actually measuring. It's a lag indicator, and so it's not really going to help them at all. We already know that.
It's just totally interesting to me.
Right. So they really need to focus on the drivers, the lead indicators of the productivity, so that they can really get some kind of basis in terms of shifting it.
So what do you think it's going to take for senior management to realize that their business is really about, yes, it's about the product and the service that they provide, but it's mainly about the people that they have working there? Because I keep finding that the original founders of these corporations had incredible amount of passion and drive,
right?
Which is what it took to get the company to where it is.
Right.
But people have not figured out how to transfer that passion and that dedication and focus down to the last employee, down to the guy that delivers the mail.
That's right.
They haven't figured it out yet.
That's right, and that's where it is.
Yeah, people go to work because they have to, and
right.
And they know when they get up in the morning that they really hate going there, but they're going to go there because there's a paycheck coming.
Right. Well, there are some companies that those other companies are looking to, right? The Zappos, the Apples, the companies who have created such a strong culture in their organization, and I think it's when people can connect to the cause of the organization, that and like what Google, the organization stands for.
People are dying. People are dying to get into Google.
Right. Right. And I think that it's from these examples that these companies are going to look and say, I want that. That's what I want for my employees, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to be able to differentiate themselves in a way that that's sustainable long term. So I do believe that things are moving in that direction, and I think that the millennial generation will make that happen because they're a different workforce. And I think because they're a different workforce and they're demanding different management styles, I think that the two are coming together as a convergence. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? They're coming from both sides, and so therefore either there's going to be an explosion, or there's going to be a shift, and it's going to work.
Right. So I'm curious, because what I continuously believe in is that almost everything that we do requires some kind of a system. Like you got to have a system
Mm-hmm.
in order for, and it has to be somewhat simple. Like not even, I'm going to take that word out somewhat. It has to be simple. The
Right.
system has to be simple so that we can recreate it over and over and over again. But there has to be a system. Like, for example, me putting on these shows, we have a system that we have developed, and it's down to the nitty gritty. We know how it works. It's just like when you sit in your car, you know what's the next thing you're going to do.
Right.
And then the next, and the next, and the next, and it's on automatic pilot. So, for example, this business, this broadcasting thing that we do, is on automatic pilot. It just works.
Right.
And that's how successful businesses work as well. Employees understand what's the system, what system they're working, and why they're working it. And it's to their benefit because it works and gets results.
Absolutely. I mean, a process is a really important part of creating leverage for the business. So I absolutely agree. It's what takes a company from, let's say, a startup or a company that's doing okay to a company that is really going to sustainably grow year after year after year. I completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, you have some kind of a system as well.
Of course I do.
You do, of course. Why do you think I asked the question? So share with us a little bit about the system that you developed, how you help people to really stop having this war with time and realize that it's really about the energy.
Right.
What is that system?
Well, the system, it's called the P10 Productivity Accelerator. Mm-hmm. And it's 10.
Sounds fancy.
Yeah, right? Makes you want to
but
get
it's
up
simple, right?
It is simple.
Okay.
It is simple. And it, as you said, it has to be simple. And so, it starts with a self-assessment, because what's interesting is that a lot of times people don't really know where they are. They haven't taken an inventory, and not just in their head, but a written inventory to get clear on where they are. So these 10 core drivers, and I call them core drivers because we said before that there's lead and lag indicators. Well, these are the lead indicators. These are the things that if you pull something's going to happen. It's not too late, right? So these are the things. So there's an assessment that I start out with that helps people get an understanding of where they are, and also get a clear understanding of, well, what's holding them back right now, whether it's individually as a person who's looking at it, or as an organization. They can get that clarity of where they are now. Because if you're going to put something into a GPS and you're going to say, okay, here's our goals, here's where we want to go, if you don't know where you are now, then you can't get the most efficient and effective path.
Right.
And then
you don't know where you're going to end up.
Right.
Anywhere.
And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but a lot of people out there are running their businesses exactly like that. Very tactically, very day to day, and they really don't know where they're going to end up because they don't really know where they are. But so that's the first part of the process. And then there's an education and an understanding of working through each of those 10 core drivers that help people to understand what they are, how they can use them to drive their productivity in different areas of their business. And it's broken out into segments. So the first segment is around the energy management aspect. It's the championship psychology. For a corporation or a company, it might be called their culture, because it's the psychology of the organization. And that's the foundation. You have to start there, right? And any company that has a really strong culture, like you said, Google, that people are dying to get into, it's because they have an amazing foundation, an amazing culture. And then they can build on top of that foundation, some really great strategies, and then make them sustainable. So those are the three parts: the psychology, the strategy, and then the sustainability.
Okay, I want to share an example right now that I'm doing, how simple this is. So I'm working with a corporation right now, and there are two partners, and this is what I started to do from the time I started to work with them. Every day when I see them, I go into their office and I say this: did I tell you yet today I love it here? This is all I say. And at the beginning, they had no idea what the hell to do with it. And I just kept doing it every day. I just kept going. Every time I saw them, or I went into their office on purpose, and I just stuck my head in there and I go, did I tell you today that I love it here? And guess what happened?
What happened?
They started to do it to me, and now other people are picking it up.
Right.
And it creates energy.
Yes, it does.
It creates positive energy. And even that I was bullshitting about it at the beginning, like I didn't necessarily believe it myself,
Right.
but I faked it.
So it does work to fake it till you make it.
Yes. I wasn't sure that I really loved it, but I said, well, I'll figure it out that I love it or not. But right now, I'm just going to say I love it, even if I don't.
Right. Well, it's an important point that you bring. It's the leadership that creates the energy that goes throughout the whole organization. How many times have you seen? I've worked in and worked with management teams that weren't in alignment, and that energy filters through the organization so quickly, right?
Yeah.
You
So
can
the other
tell.
day, the president comes up to me and he says, "I love seeing you in that chair." Like he took it to a whole different. And the other partner said to me today, actually, as I come to work, I'm thinking what I'm going to say to you. But don't you think that it's so simple and it makes such a huge difference?
It is. I mean, and absolutely, it's looking at where you can create that really positive energy. You know, I was telling somebody because one of the elements it's where you choose to focus, and it's also the physiology element, right? And I was talking about the Japanese who used to have people doing calisthenics in the morning and things like that, and I said it makes total sense. Because what they're doing is they're having people transition and shift and leave all their home stuff behind, so that when they get there and they put that energy into it, they're starting with a really positive energy for the day, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's the new thing that should be changing in organizations, is have people get up and do a little calisthenics or a little yoga before they start work together.
Hey, do you remember Anderson Consulting?
No, what did they have something like that?
No, they were one of the top 5 accounting firms.
Oh yeah, I remember who they were. I used to work for Anderson.
No,
yeah.
You used to work for them? Oh, okay, great. So here I am. I made my team. I forced them to meditate before every meeting that we had, because I wanted to make sure that they were present and they were focusing, and that they left all their other stuff outside the door, so that we could be really productive. And I got reported and I got fired for it because it wasn't in the manual, and it was like, quote unquote, tree hugging.
Right. Right. That's I think today would be different, right? Because more people are open and appreciative of it. But it's true. That's an aspect of getting people present, and really leaving behind, because it's all the emotional baggage, whether it's from work or whether it's from home or wherever. But it's those emotions that keep us from, being present and being as productive as we could be in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. So this is really what the network is all about. It's about teaching the general public about all there is this moment, and that I am being with you, Penny, and I'm not thinking about anything else. And anybody can teach this to themselves, how to manage their mind. For probably 3 decades, people have told me, and I went to tons of education, personal development education, how to quiet my mind. And everybody told me how simple it was, and but I never figured it out, really. And finally, in the last few years, I would say about 3 years ago, there was finally a moment in my life when my mind was completely blank. It was a transformational moment. And ongoingly after that, I had an entire week where my mind was completely quiet. And as soon as I questioned myself, how long is this going to last? It stopped right there.
Right.
And but I know now that it's possible, and somehow something developed inside of me, and I can't even explain it. I don't have words for it. But right now, the chatter is gone. And I used to live with this chatter, the constant chatter of yeah, you can do this, no, you can't, and da 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 da. You know what I'm talking about? I don't
Right,
have that. It's
absolutely.
gone. It's gone.
That's great. You know, I do believe that it's a muscle. It's first of all, you have to recognize it, right? So that you can also work on letting it go.
So
'Cause
it's, I mean, it's beautiful, and I would like everybody to be able to do this, and they can. I mean, we all have it in us that we can
yeah.
do this.
No, I
We just
believe
need
it.
to be, we just need to be open. I mean, I was open. Really, what created the space for it is I was open. This is possible. Yeah, people have been telling it to me for decades, and I never could do it. And I meditated for a long time, and even in my meditation, I had the chatter. I was talking.
Well, and they say that's absolutely common. I just went to a sort of a yoga meditation discussion, and you know, I meditate from time to time, and one of the, and I do believe that meditation is a great way to get that break that you need, right? And to just focus on your breathing, because breathing is the number one way that you can shift your energy in a very, very quick way, right?
And to connect with source. Yeah.
Absolutely,
To
and to
go
connect,
inside. That is the only way that I know of how to go
right?
inside.
Well, and when we live our, you know, day to day, you know, running here, running there, is we breathe very shallowly. So we're not, you know, we're far from in touch with that. But what was interesting, and it was kind of like, you know, how you can hear the same things and you know things, but in some
Yeah.
way it just clicked. Like I shouldn't say always, in the number of years that I've been working on also self-development, is I know that our behavior and our thoughts are not who we are, right? And so, but what clicked for me is when this woman was talking about meditation, and she said, you know, while you're meditating, if there are thoughts coming in, you just let them wash over you like water. And, you know, just let those thoughts come in and watch them and see them go. And it just kind of clicked for me, this idea of we are not our thoughts, and that, you know, you can actually watch them and let them go. And then you get to that place, like you said you were, and that I've been before, which is a beautiful place where the chatter goes away because you've separated yourself from it.
Right. And then we can also witness ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
this is not who I am. I can see this. I don't even know what words to use. Like, I can be away from this and witness it and notice what it is for what it is. And this is not really who I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is just how I show up.
Right. Right. It's a mind-blowing concept, right?
It is a mind-blowing concept. Yes. So, did you actually cover everything about the P10, or is there more?
Oh, sorry, we got like onto so anyway, I was explaining. So the system is worked into those three different categories, and then we work through each of those categories, looking at how to optimize it. And what's important is it also starts with the person defining what productivity is for them, so that they're working from their baseline, right, with their assessment. And because I'm a big believer that it's about comparing yourself to the best of yourself and not to someone else, right? That for me, progress is perfection. As long as you can see yourself and you're challenging yourself to, you know, to be your best self, then that's perfection.
Right.
But that really
Well,
is the process. It's just going through those 10 things and then constantly rechecking in and saying, okay, where am I? So every week or every 2 weeks, we check in at that level. Just like if you're at a sales meeting, you're going to check how many calls were made, or whatever the key drivers are that drive your sales. You're going to check those on a regular basis, because people pay attention to what, you know, to what you're measuring. And so it's the same thing, as now we get people tuned in to what the core drivers are of their productivity, and then their productivity increases as they start to, you know, close those gaps.
so one of the things that I found just in my own history is, and for some reason this seems to be a little bit easier for me than for a lot of other people, and that has to do with change. People so resist the change, and I used to do that, and then I realized that I'm going to make it my friend, and I actually not thrive on it.
Uh-huh.
So what could you say to our viewers about people create all these fears that if they're going to do something and they're not going to do it the way they always done it, like they fear something, that something is going to happen, um, almost like they won't know who they are or what they're doing if they
Right.
change the way they're going to do something.
Right. Well, I mean, people know that fear in itself, it's real. It feels real, and we've created it, but it still feels real. And I mean, it's so real, right, that we're watching a movie and we're sitting on the sofa and the music's going and we're like terrified, but we're completely safe because we're on the sofa and our body is reacting. We get goosebumps. So and I just the other night, this happened to me. I don't know why. I was deathly scared. I heard something. I thought somebody was in the house. My heart was beating like,
Uh,
you know, and in
I had that.
reality, I knew that, what's the likelihood of that, right? So I had to calm myself down to say, that's not it. And again, I used my breathing, right? Because breathing is something where I just took a couple of deep breaths and, talked myself out of it. And I think that's the key thing, is to recognize the fear. And if you can play a game, like if you can see life a little bit more like a game,
Mm.
then we'd play it differently, wouldn't we? I mean, it would be totally different if you didn't feel like everything was so intense, or, then to make a change is a new strategy and it might help you to win the game. So you're going to do it. And if you really honestly could shift your belief from there is no failure, there's only feedback, and every day just kind of take a look at, as I said, progress is perfection. And if you can adopt that mentality, then fear doesn't really exist, except for when it's really necessary, right? But it doesn't exist in those situations where you're trying something new or you're exploring. It's just part of the game, and you're going to learn something, and you're going to get some feedback that's going to enable you to either know what doesn't work so that you can focus on what does. I usually use the kids game as an example. You hide something in the room and they have to find it, right? And you give them, their hotter, hotter, colder, colder, right? So it's the hotter, colder game.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if you come in the room and you do nothing? What happens?
Even
Nothing.
if you don't say
Nothing
any,
happens.
if you don't say anything.
Well, if they don't move, if they come in the room and they don't move and they
Oh,
do nothing,
oh, nothing happens. It
nothing
doesn't get hotter
happens.
and doesn't get colder.
That's
It's
right.
nothing.
Nothing happens. And
Yeah.
that's the same thing for most people in their lives when they continue to do the same thing over and over again, is there's no feedback. There's nothing really happens. So you have to change it up and move into different realms and take a step out and see, are you getting hotter or colder in terms of where you want to be, in terms of what's important to you, in terms of getting clarity wherever you are, whatever it is that you need. So again, it's like that game, and you're just getting a little bit of feedback, and a little feedback goes a long way.
Yeah. So, how much value do you think is there for people to like experiment a little bit? Like when they get up in the morning, instead of get up on the right side, get up on the left. Instead of brushing their teeth with the right hand, brush it with the left. Instead of taking the same road to work that they always do, go a different way. What do you think about any of those things? Just to shake things up a little.
Well, you talked about it earlier in terms of creativity. It spawns our creativity. I think it's actually, I read somewhere, I don't remember the statistic or anything, but that it's actually important for our brain to mix things up in that way, so that we're constantly finding and seeing different and new things, right? I think somebody told me that they only knew one way to go to work, and then there was like they shut down the street, and they were like beside themselves, stressed out, right?
Livestock. Uh-huh.
Right, because they had no flexibility. So their creativity and their flexibility was like, zero. So I absolutely encourage people to do things differently, sit in a different seat. It's that old habit where people go into a classroom or into a boardroom and they always sit in the same seat. Even just as a game, Sit in a different seat so you screw someone else's pattern up, right? Because all you're doing is breaking a pattern, and just watch people's faces. So do it as a game if you're not going to do it for yourself, right?
I do that in meetings, and people say, "You took my seat." I said, "No, I didn't. It doesn't have your name on it.
Right.
I just took a different seat. You
right.
took my seat. What are you talking about? This is your seat, really?"
It's funny to watch people, right? But it's good for them. You did them a favor, right? Because you broke that pattern of thinking. And you know what's interesting is somewhere I read that it was a different number than I had originally read, but that we have something like 16,000 or plus thoughts a day. But only 5% of those thoughts are new.
Yes.
So that means we repeat the same patterns over and over and over again. So yeah, mix it up. Get flexible, get creative. And you want to especially do that in companies, like you were talking about in companies, so that you spark the creativity in the company. You want creativity and innovation to be in your company.
Right. Like I told everybody yesterday something that they really didn't like. I said, weekly we need to, because they have cubicles everywhere. So weekly, I'd like to propose that everybody sits somewhere else. Because it's a different perspective. People get so used to the same stupid cubicle. It's like, I don't know which movie this is, but maybe you remember it. This guy, that really funny looking guy, and I thought maybe it's The Office, that he has the stapler, and it's always, everything is about his stapler. And you can't take his stapler away. And I can't remember which movie this is. And then I think his boss told him one time he's got to move down to the basement. And he was okay with that as long as he could have his stapler.
Stapler, right? That was his. I don't know that one, but we all have our, that's like a little kid's whoopee, right? So he's got his stapler.
Yeah. So do you think that's kind of useful to shake things up, that people are in different, because we even expect people to be in certain places, and everybody just gets so comfortable that it's like, wait a minute, everything is the same. It's almost like there's the other movie where every day starts the same way and everything happens the same way.
Groundhog Day.
That's it, the Groundhog Day. Same stuff. I'm just experiencing that at this office, and I'm going like, we gotta shake this up.
Right.
This is boring. Let's shake it up. And the best we could, but everybody's so attached to their cubicle and the things that they hang up. And
right. Well, and the problem with that, as you said, everybody is in the same place, is that it stifles that outside of the box thinking. So what happens is when they get stuck, they're stuck because, as you said, they're always in the same perspective, in the same place.
Box. They put themselves in the box.
And they sit stuck for sometimes a long time. Like when I'm working with people and coaching people, and they're talking about something and they're saying, I don't know, or they're stuck, I tell them to get up, right? To get up and shift position. Go over there. This is the stuck chair. And you're going to go over there and you're going to sit in the creativity chair, and then you're going to have the answer. And they always do. Yeah. They always have the answer.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. So let's just summarize. Our theme this evening was how to stop the tug of war with time. Let's summarize for the viewers. How do we really do that? How do we stop the tug of war with time?
Well, the first thing is, and you said it when you said, you don't believe in time, is to stop being time driven. Because that's a one step forward, two steps back. That's the tug of war. Is it's not about time. So the very first thing is give up the idea that everything is time driven. Use it as a common language, but be focused on results, and that's going to give you a different perspective when you're focused on the energy that you bring and the results that you're looking to achieve. That's what I would say. I don't know if you'd say anything in addition to that.
Well, I would say very much the same thing, and maybe just add that, that I always say there's no time, but the two excuses people use for almost everything is I don't have time and I don't have the money.
Right.
And both of them are a lie.
Right. 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 So you have
Because if
to.
they really want something, they always find the money. And if they really want to do something, they will always find the time.
That's right. Somebody once used the analogy of a drug addict, right? They don't have money, right?
Mhm.
But
But
they
they'll
find the
find it.
money.
They'll
They'll
find
find
it.
it. Whatever
Yeah.
it takes, they'll find it. And
Yeah.
so you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things. So once you get rid of the idea that it's time driven, you have to get rid of the excuses. You have to get rid of the blaming. You have to get rid of all the outside influences that you're looking to shift the power to, and you need to take back the power. Take back the power of choice, that you have the choice. And because so many people are like, oh, it's out of my hands, it's my boss, it's this, it's that, and you'll never get past it. It'll always be that tug of war when when you're pointing the finger and finding excuses and all that kind of stuff. You got to
Right.
take a step up, and then it's to understand what the drivers are. And then when you understand what the drivers are, you can focus on those, and then that's going to really propel you forward and get rid of that rope altogether.
That's yeah, that's fantastic. And then be prepared that once people really get away from this time thing, that things are going to shift and things are going to change very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because really, it's about what you said. It's about being accountable for who we are and being accountable for that we creating our reality. So that when you said, if we are blaming and we are saying, I'm not getting the results that I would like to get because of he, she, or it, or
Right.
whatever is behind, yeah, that's already set up as a lose-lose.
Right. But we live in a society where that's very prevalent, right? When we can't find an answer, then we look for somebody to blame. And sometimes you blame yourself. And that's defeatism as well, right? It's not my friend and great coach Sarah Wegwitz, she said, people fall into the I suck, you suck category, right? It's either they tell everyone else they suck, or they beat up on themselves, right? And neither is excuse me, neither is constructive.
Yeah,
so
or
it's
productive. Yeah.
or productive, right? So it's getting out of that mode and really getting to a place where you can then drive your productivity, right? Get back to that creativity, as you said, that flexibility, that creativity. And there's 10 core drivers that people could find out about in my book if they wanted to, or from my website or something. So there's 10 things that really drive our productivity.
Yeah, and you also said this earlier in the show that it's about really enjoyment and being satisfied with
That's right.
how every day occurs for us. So I just want to suggest this, that for all those people that get up in the morning and they already made that commitment that they hate their job and that they hate to go there, but they're going to go there because they need to pay the rent and they need to eat. Instead of doing that, get up in the morning and say, even if you don't believe it, and say, I love my job and I'm going to have a great time at work today and I'm going to be productive and I'm going to have an awesome day. Even if you don't believe it, fake it.
Well, let me give you one more thing that the viewers can do is, I guarantee that if they think about it, that they can find two or three things that they do love about the job. A person that they really enjoy interacting with. I do this all the time with people who have conflict with their bosses, right? And we deal with the conflict because they're choosing to focus on, oh, I hate this, and they're getting sucked into this story that they're creating. But there's another side of it that's also true. And when they choose to shift that focus and say, okay, I'm going to have a great day and I'm going to love this, they can find just those three things that they really do like about their job, about being there, about the environment, whatever it is. Maybe it's set in a beautiful setting and that's enough, right? Maybe it's a person that they really appreciate. Maybe it's where their desk is located, whatever. It can be, whatever minuscule thing it is, but find something and focus on that.
And some aspect of the job that they actually do enjoy.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Oh, so those would be like anchoring, right?
Well, you're anchoring it if you could anchor it, right? If you kept and put yourself into a really peak state with those things, then you could then anchor it. So just for the people who are listening, an anchor is, let's think about if you think of a song and that song takes you right back to like a high school dance or something like that. That's an auditory anchor. And so that'll take you right back to that place. So you could take those things that you really love, really focus on them, really visualize them, and you could attach it to a song. So maybe the first thing you do before you go into work is listen to a song that gets you juiced about what you love, either about the work or just being happy. And I encourage a lot of companies, I work with them to create like a morning song that does anchor everybody into a great day. A couple of restaurants that I was coaching with, they did that and they saw great results. And or you could do something with something on your desk that could represent that, right? That sits right there in front of you. Or you can also, grab your finger, and while you're thinking about the things that you really love, you really associate it with it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? And what are you hearing around you? Really associate to it fully. And while you're doing that, you can set that anchor. So just by grabbing, your finger or something you don't do all the time. And then that way, when you're feeling kind of down and you're focused on something that you don't really love, you can trigger that anchor. It's just like listening to the song.
That will shift it. That will shift
right.
it.
It'll shift it because it'll make that wiring go, and you'll be like, oh, it's a pretty cool phenomenon.
So what you're really describing is the mind, and what you're describing is that we do have the power to rewire ourselves.
Yes, we do. I see it all the time.
Because we have the power, we wired our mind the way it is.
That's right. Or or culturally we allowed it to be influenced. But as adults, we have the power to take it back.
So I want to share this too. This morning, the conscious hour is over, but I got to share this. So I was going to the office this morning, and I was looking for something really creative. So because I was in a huge traffic jam, so what I did is I tuned into my satellite radio, and I said, what kind of music do I want to listen to right now? What came to me is I want to hear some jam sessions. And I switched to, I think it's channel 19 or something. So I switched there, and I heard this incredible creative music, totally jamming, right? These artists are jamming, and nothing is pre-done. It's like this show, we don't design this show. This show turns out to be the way it is just because of who you and I are being. And that's what those guys were doing. They were playing music, guitar, all the other instruments, and they were jamming, and incredible stuff came out, right? And I was thinking, well, we could do this at the office. Everybody could be so creative that we could just create this incredible music at work by doing what we do, creating results that we never thought, we could ever create. Because the music sounded like, to me, that this music was not, it's not music that's written, it's music that's being created in the moment.
Right.
Absolutely. I was so jazzed up. I was ready to go to the office and get out of my car. Let's get it on,
Right.
Fantastic.
Music is a great metaphor for businesses. I think it's a great metaphor.
Yeah, because it's really, everybody is just part of the orchestra,
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's the president doing his thing, and this is what I want you to do. And
right, and when they all play together, it's magic.
Yeah, in sync, it's absolutely magic. Yeah, awesome. Well, Penny, the conscious hour is over. Yeah, it was fantastic. Oh my God, goosebumps. I had goosebumps a number of times. Did you have any goosebumps?
I did. Why? I thought I was scared. Because we were talking about fear.
Oh, okay. You were fantastic. I really enjoyed, Penny, you being on the show and also on the network. It flows like butter.
Like butter. Well, you have a great show. This is so much fun, and you can tell you love what you do on toast.
Yeah, I really do. Thank you so much for being with us. You've been fantastic, and thank you for dedicating your life to productivity and creativity, which is absolutely awesome.
Great.
And I'm sure that you're changing lives one at a time, just like we do. And for everybody else out there, make sure that you keep to our YouTube channel, Unconscious Evolution Media, and you keep watching this show and all the other shows there, because the more you watch them, the more they get up to the top 10 every month, which we publish on YouTube. And then we have the possibility of having them go to public television. So thank you so much. We'll see you guys on the next edition of the Mind, Body, and Soul TV. Have a great evening, Penny.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.